Hello everyone, welcome to Grow Your Future with Luxland. I am the beast from the east and this is the predator of property.
Oh, of course.
We have the queen of business.
Oh no.
And the boss of transformation.
All right.
How good's that?
That was a good intro.
I'm energized now. I'm ready.
I just had a coffee. Welcome, Hayley.
Thank you. Thank you
welcome.
for having me. I'm very excited. I'm nervous.
So excited
but
to
I'm
have
excited.
you on. Finally, it's been a little bit of a challenge booking Hayley up to this podcast because you're so busy, right?
Yes, and you're so busy.
Yep.
So it's like trying to align schedules.
Yep.
And finally paths have crossed, which is nice.
Certainly have. So today we're talking about transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you are apparently the queen of that. So,
Apparently.
The boss.
One part
the
of
The
boss.
boss of
transformation.
transformation.
Jade was the queen.
Jade's the queen.
Jade's the queen. Always
Hayley's the
queen.
boss.
So give us a little bit of a rundown, Hayley, on yourself. I mean, where you've come from as entrepreneurial and business wise, you know, what you're doing with yourself today, and what has earned you the spot on tonight's podcast.
I suppose, I'll start where it all kind of started for me and the kind of transformation one way and then back the other, I suppose. You know, through year 12 and stresses and everything like that, I was really undecided as to what I was going to do when I finished school. I played a lot of sport and then that kind of went on hold with injuries and everything all through year 12. Then, you know, transforming into, you know, first year uni student, and everyone calls it the fresh of 10. Mine was a lot more than that because it was like the first year of freedom. It's just like with an injury, not playing the sport that I was playing all the time that kept me fit, I kind of headed down this downward spiral. And it wasn't until kind of my third year of uni that I kind of realised it was actually a number of things that contributed to it. But it just hit me and I was like, I was watching Biggest Loser and there was a girl on there who was the same height as me. She was a year different from me and she weighed less than I did and she was on a show to lose weight. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like this is not okay.
Were you angry because you weren't on the show?
No, not angry. I think for me, it was more of a wake-up call because for me, I kind of just always made excuses for myself and I was like, oh, whatever, and I had a good group of friends and whatever, so they kind of liked me for me. But it wasn't until I kind of saw that and I was like, hang on a second, she's on a show getting help about her weight and her stats are pretty much the same as mine. So that's when it kind of...
How old were you then? Did you say you were in uni?
Yeah, 19.
Okay,
19.
How old are you now?
I'm 26.
26.
Yeah.
So not that long ago.
No, not that long ago. And then from there, I kind of just started taking small changes. I just changed what I ate, kind of just made little tweaks because I was still at uni. I stopped going out as much because I was in my final year of uni and just kind of wanted to get it all done and over with and come back to Sydney because I went to uni in Bathurst. And then from there, I just kind of started making really small, healthy habits that I kind of continued to stick to over the, you know, course of until now, even to this day, I stick to those. You know, I'd get up before I had to be at uni, go to the gym, and I really like the morning because in the morning the only people that are up are people that choose to be up, not people who have to be up. And I think making a choice to be up is really important because, you know, you've mentally said to yourself, I want to be up, I want to be doing this. You're not complaining about being up. Whereas people at like 7 or 8 o'clock are kind of complaining that they're up and they're awake and, oh, I've had to come to the gym like it's a chore. And then from there, over about a 4.5 year period, I lost just over 60 kilos.
Wow. So
Where
you went from what? So you went from 130...
So I've pretty much...
135, was it?
Lost myself.
Now you're at your lightest now? Or
Yes, I'm at my lightest now.
Yeah.
Before I was doing Iron Woman and all of that, competing and everything like that. But now I feel like I'm definitely fitter mentally, having gone through it all, but also physically because I've managed to find a balance between work and fitting in what I love, which is training and being healthy.
So when you were a kid, let's take it back before uni, right? Because uni is where you said you had that downward spiral. As a kid growing up, were you, were you overweight as a kid? Or?
No, never. I mean, I was always in sport, always played sport. When we moved to Australia when I was 12 from the UK, obviously the UK is a lot less of an active country, I find. People aren't as active because of the weather, and it's not, everyone kind of does things inside. So as a young kid, you're still doing things active, but it's in a different way that Australians do it. And then I find that, growing up, like I was in sport, school sport, I played, touch, water polo, I did nippers, and then that transferred into like Iron Woman on the beach and everything like that. So I was always really active.
It was that university lifestyle.
It was trying to fit in, I think, was the biggest thing, because you go from an environment where you're so comfortable at school, you're the big fish in the little pond in year 12, and you're like, I know what I'm doing, I've got my life, sorted, and you kind of have that full understanding that you're like, I've got this. And then you get into uni, and there are people that have been there for like 4, 5, 6, 7 years, even more, and you're meeting, like I went to uni and I knew nobody. Like there was not one person at the uni that I knew. So it was like starting from scratch again. And for me, that was so daunting. And I'd moved my whole life. Like I hadn't stayed in the same spot because my dad's in the military. So I've always moved. So going to uni was just natural for me. But then it's just trying to fit in and trying to create that group of friends so that you're not the odd one out. And by doing that, led me to drink more than I would normally and eat the shit that I wouldn't normally eat. And, it just kind of forces you into that environment that you're just subconsciously doing it. People would have movie nights and you're sitting there eating ice cream and chocolates, and I wouldn't do that on my own at home.
It's funny you say that you did all of these things to fit in and to conform, right? Where we're constantly talking about on this podcast to stand out and always do things differently, go against the herd, right? And I think you have to go through times like that, because I've been through times like that where you just want to fit in, right? I grew up on the Central Coast, and like I was the only brown kid in school, so I always tried to do what all the Aussies did, and I just tried to fit in. But now, being in my 30s, right, I don't conform anymore. Like I go against the herd. I do things differently to the point where people don't like me for it, but I like me for it, right? And you kind of have to go through that hump, those experiences of it's actually detrimental to you if you conform, right? Because that's what you went through.
Yeah, and I feel like also at a young age you're trying to figure out who you are and what it is you stand for. And when you go through something like that at whatever age you go up, whether you go through it, in your 20s or your 30s or whenever, you've got to kind of go through the opposite to know what it is you want. And it's like relationships, you've got to experience those shit relationships to know exactly what it is you want. And then from there on in, you kind of set yourself up for success by saying, no, I don't want that, I want something else. And, now I'm, not scared to say, yes, I'm not coming out for a drink because I'm going to go train, or I'm going to go meet my girlfriends because that's more important to me than going out for a drink with people that I don't really know or get along with.
It's about having that emotional, mental fitness. There was something I was going to say there about market relationships and trying the other side, but I thought I'd just leave it.
I think we've had enough of that.
With the transformation side of things, though, the transformation side of things, I did the exact same thing back in 2015. I had a business where it was the only thing that I could do to keep the business alive, right? It was in the fitness industry, and as we all know, the fitness industry is very superficial, right? It's very, very superficial, where it's just about looks. That's all it is. So that's all I focused on. To be honest with you, that's all I focused on. I was overweight, and I was unhealthy, and I performed. I think it was like 13 or 14 weeks. Yeah.
Yes, I think 14 weeks. Yeah.
Transformation of getting down from, I think it was 20+% body fat down to down to 9%.
Yeah. Wow.
So I did that, and I was really proud of myself, and we pulled in a lot of business, and it was great. But it wasn't the physical transformation that really got to me. It was the mental fitness and that emotional intelligence that I was able to gain.
Well, you trimmed the fat off your brain, didn't you?
That's right, because as you're trimming the fat off your body, you tend to have to trim the fat off your brain because you have to instill discipline. You know, you have to eat right, you have to get up early, like you just said. And those habits that I sort of had to come up with during that 13, 14 weeks of the transformation has now stuck with me for life.
Yeah.
So I'm up at 5 a.m. every day, right? I'm still doing the exercising. I'm still eating the way I do when I did the transformation. And that's, you know, we're 3-4 years on now. And that alone has changed my life.
Absolutely.
Right? And mentally now, I can, like you were just saying, you can say no to things a lot easier. Right? Because most of the time what's happening in society is that people are trying to get you to do things. Right? They're wanting you to follow them like a sheep. Right? No one wants you to be a wolf because it's intimidating.
Absolutely.
Right? So if for example, if you're out and you know, you're with a bunch of friends and everyone is eating junk food and having a drink, right? And you say no, everyone's going to try and influence you to
100%.
Because they feel better about it too.
Yep.
Well, it makes them feel better.
Because they feel guilty.
Because if they feel guilty, you know, I say this to all of my clients, I think that's one of the biggest struggles that they face is, you know, but everybody else is having pizza. And it's like, who cares?
Yep.
Like, stand your ground. Like, why are you doing this? And I think that comes back to the reason about, you know, a lot of people go, you know, how do I start a transformation? And for me, it's not about, you know, a transformation isn't a destination. It's got small milestones that you continue to make. Like, I'm still transforming, but it's not a weight loss journey anymore. It's a fitness journey, you know, and you constantly change those small goals to get to where you need to be. And for me, my clients constantly say, you know, oh, but we've got pizza at work on Thursdays. And I was like, okay, but what's your goal? Not the rest of the work, not the rest of anyone around you. What is your goal? Why have you come to me asking for help? And then they're like, oh, well, I want to lose weight for this, or I want to be fitter for this. And then you kind of bring them back to reality and go, okay, well, is that going to be, you know, is that going to impact your success in your goal that you want? And, you know, they'll turn around and they'll say, yeah, it will. And then it kind of just puts it in perspective. And I think a lot of times people can't put it into perspective around their goals and they're like, oh, one thing won't matter. But what I find is making those healthy habits along the way will help you then reinforce the rest of your journey as you continue into life.
I think so. Definitely, you're definitely right. And I think what I find, you know, whether people are going through physical transformations or in life in general, in business, whatever their journey might be, often I hear a lot of people go, well, I haven't started yet and I'm going to do this, and next week or the week after, next year is my year. And it's like, well, how important is this to you?
Diet starts Monday.
Yeah, we always hear diet
We all
starts
heard
Monday.
that. Diet
We've
starts
probably
Monday.
all said that. I've probably said that last month. But like, do you know what I mean? It's you have to really want it. Like, how bad is this dream of yours or this goal? How important is it to you? Is it affecting your health? Well, then you have to get to it straight away. And
that actually leads me on to a question, Jade, which is, it kind of includes you. But, you know, both of you, I find, have a very similar lifestyle. You've got the full-time career, and then you've also got the entrepreneurial side. You know, you guys are going extremely hard on both fronts. So how do you find, Hayley, time to work on yourself personally? Like in regards to personal development and stuff like that, because you've got your business going, you've got 9 to 5 happening, and then you've got to separate yourself from all of that, don't you?
Totally. But I also find that it's, you know, a lot of the times, and Jade, I'm sure you'll all agree with me, a lot of the times it's about being, Jade and I were just talking about it before, it's about being efficient, and it's about where and when you can combine two things that complement each other. Do that if you don't have the time. I find that, you know, I spend a lot of time driving to and from work, or commuting to and from work, or to and from the gym. And I find that if I'm listening to podcasts then, instead of just aimless ramble on the radio or music, then I can fit in my stuff then. And then I also find that having those dedicated areas, and just say to yourself, like, commit yourself to a goal. Again, that small goal for that week. You know, I've committed to reading 12 books in 12 months. Like, that's my goal.
That's a great goal.
Because I'd forgotten reading. Like, I'd forgotten that I loved reading so much, and not necessarily getting lost in like fictional books, but actual like development books. And I've read so many great ones. I'm actually up to my 5th book at the moment, so I'm a month ahead of myself. But